Yes, hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Wrestling Skull podcast. I'm your host John Scott, joined as always by my phenomenal, I'll call him phenomenal this week, co-host Matt Essex. How you doing, Matt? Are you there, Matt?
Oh, yeah, sorry, cut out a little bit just then.
Yeah,
I'm pretty good actually, thanks. Yeah, and a nice little new nickname there for me, is it? I don't mind being compared to the phenomenal AJ Styles, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot worse wrestlers there I could be compared to.
Well, the irony is, and then of course I didn't hear a reply, so I was really worried. I thought I've just called him, I've given him the name, and now he's done one, he's gone. If this is your first time maybe listening to us on the Wrestling Skull podcast and you just checked us out for the first time tonight, or you're listening to this in the week, not live, be sure to check out some of our interviews that we've done in the past couple of years. Got loads up there, including the likes of Diana Hart. We've had Sheldon Goldberg on a few times. We've had Daniel Puder on, the former Tough Enough winner himself, an MMA fighter. Rio O'Reilly, and of course RJ Singh a few times as well, so check those out if you're into the wrestling interviews, and you might even be into the whole retrospective stuff and you want to go back and you don't like talking about maybe today's present stuff. Well, we've done a whole King of the Ring retrospective series, all 10 King of the Rings covered, and you can go back and check that out as well. And not only that, we also have our very own Magnificent Sevens, where we pick a particular topic and we stack them up against one another, and they're always pretty good as well, and there's quite a lot of variety in what we've done with that as well. But on with the show tonight, I suppose. It was really hard, Matt, coming into this one to know where to start. Lots sort of going on in WWE. Also lots going on outside of WWE as well, but I thought before we start getting into the news and all the rest of it, the last 7 days or whatever, one thing I really did actually want to sort of bring up last week's show, but we didn't really get time, and then I kind of forgot about it on the way out of it, and until we sort of came off, and that was just to talk a little bit, because I'd had loads of emails about this, and something I should have really covered, but the whole TV format in general with WWE and the live format and everything else. Matt, I mean, we were, when WrestleMania was going on, I know that you and I kind of we had lots of discussions about, was it too long, and other ways of dealing with it, and if you're there in the live crowd, you are kind of sitting out there for a good, I mean, you could potentially be out there for like a whole 8 hours, I guess, if you got there early enough, and but I mean, definitely if you want to watch the pre-show, that's quite a long time, and I think that people have said, does it zap the crowd by the time it gets right to the end, and you can only kind of have so much energy within a live show. You think about when you go to the cinema, why don't they make films 3 hours or 4 hours at a time? Well, there's a good reason for that, and it's called attention span, and it's believe me, they got the money to if they wanted, but they don't, and there's a real reason for it. So, Matt, do you think that wrestling needs to follow a little bit more of a suit in that environment? Because for me, it's getting longer and longer as each year goes by. I mean, I'm kind of, I'm sort of thinking to myself, in the next 10 years, are we going to have one that's sort of 10 hours long, or even worse than that? And I suppose, Matt, is there any real answer in how to deal with it better?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, really, because I give it a free pass for WrestleMania because it's only a once a year kind of event, and it's almost now getting to the point when you look at the stuff that they're doing in Japan and the length of that walkway, and then WWE came out this year and they had their largest walkway. Is it kind of like trying to outdo the last one? Like they're competing against each other a little bit? Something to me kind of feels a little bit like that, and I don't really think it's necessary because, like you said, like the attention spans, they go after a certain amount of time. No doubt, people in that live crowd, they're getting a little bit fed up, like halfway through. They're going out and getting some food. People do have to eat in these events. You can't just sit in a chair. You will have to go up and get some food, and sometimes hot dogs or some nachos or whatever isn't going to cut it, especially being there for 8 hours, because I'm pretty sure I would have been there for that long, and perhaps even earlier, because you get people lining up outside, waiting to go in, getting excited about the event. It's just turning into almost an all-dayer now, isn't it? I mean, I wouldn't be totally shocked if they do something like that eventually, like if the rate this is going, when they just say it's WrestleMania Day and have like the previous night just roll into the next day.
Yeah.
But it's just getting a little bit out of hand in those seconds. I think perhaps if they're going to do it that long, then a WrestleMania weekend isn't such a bad idea. I mean, I know we get Hall of Fame on the Friday or the Saturday, and then we get NXT, but they might need to just specifically allocate like a Saturday and Sunday for WrestleMania. Put one half of the matches, like be it Raw matches, on the Saturday, and then put the SmackDown ones be on the Sunday, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's definitely something. I think the thing you got to remember as well, I suppose, for people that have not been to the WWE shows, or maybe, they're kind of watching it telly. I mean, the thing with WWE, Matt, unlike boxing and UFC, like there's no let up with the WWE. It is continuous. And one thing in particular, Matt, I'm sure you noticed this, that at this year's WrestleMania we had no backstage sort of segments. We had no interviews. Everything was all about what was going on with the entrances and sort of outside. There was no sort of moments where it went backstage. The only things they cut for were adverts. But literally everything is just bang, 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 next. If you're not watching a video package, the thing is, even the video packages, I mean, there's no let up. You've got to be, they're being shown everywhere. Everybody needs to get into that, and then these long, humongous entrances that I felt was way too long this year because of that ramp, by the way. It just really, energy levels must have been quite down at some period. Because you think, Matt, when entrances happen, even that takes a lot out of the crowd sometimes, depending on who it is. And I felt like that really didn't help this year. But yeah, I mean, go on, mate.
Oh, it's all part of like a bigger show, isn't it? I mean, I know people come there for the wrestling, but when you're getting like entrances like that, and then you're getting music performers there, it is kind of like an entertainment kind of package. It isn't just wrestling. So, like, people come there, and then some people, I wouldn't be surprised if they came there for Flow Rider. I mean, I know that wasn't our kind of thing, but I bet some people were pretty excited to see him.
Yeah, well, it's weird because the music, because I was watching it this year, like when the music thing came on, I really wasn't looking forward to this, by the way. But I tell you what, when it came on, I was actually really happy because it was the first time I could actually think, I haven't got to watch wrestling for about 7 minutes. I can get me, I can start sorting other things out. I can kind of move away from it. It's really weird. I mean, I know the whole thing. People will compare it to the Super Bowl and stuff like that. But even with the Super Bowl, you've got two gigantic halves, and then you've got a crazy halftime show. But that halftime show kind of like gets everybody ready for the next bit. It's like a nice long break. Whereas this is just so continuous. I think Matt is on the right lines. I mean, I certainly suggested about doing. They could easily do it because let's face it, Matt. Whoever's going to WrestleMania now, wherever you're coming in from, they're there for the weekend. I mean, it is a weekend event now with everything going on. Nobody's just coming in for Sunday and going home Monday. People do the whole thing. Even if you're not going to Raw the next night, you might be going to an indie show or you're going to stick around. I mean, whatever. But it's a weekend thing now. So WWE could easily do a 2-night WrestleMania, and they've got enough talent. Like, rather than kind of having to see all these guys in battle royals and all this sort of nonsense, you could actually divide them very nicely, where actually, you can use them better. You haven't got to probably be as quick either. Like, guys will probably get longer on their matches because of it. And I don't know, maybe just do 3.5 hours per night. With your hour pre-show or whatever. But to have it all in one go just seems absolutely madness. I mean, when I was telling my friend that he doesn't watch wrestling, but when I told him how long it was, he couldn't believe it. He was like, "This is crazy." It's like binge watching a TV series for just 10 hours or whatever. It's like you've really got to be into it, and I think as good as WrestleMania is, and believe me, it was a lot better this year, and I did enjoy the ride. I don't know that. I mean, certainly last year I felt very drained, and I just think that maybe they got lucky this year because of the whole Undertaker thing at the end. But I don't know if that's always going to be the case. Matt, another point to this is people were talking about 205 as well. What do you make of the 205 show? How it is. I mean, how do you think that's been going since it's had its own show and it's been up and running by itself with their own talent? How do you think that's going for WWE as a show?
Well, I actually quite enjoy it. I mean, I know it might not be a lot of people's thing, but for me it feels like an extension of Raw. And I know Raw is long enough already at 3 hours long, but this is only a 1 hour show, so it's very bite-sized, and you don't really have to keep up with everything that's going on in Raw in order to watch this. Yeah. But if you like that kind of faster style, and you like the talent that is a little bit underused or not getting the exposure that they quite deserve, then that is the 205 show. These people are people that should be like future stars in this industry, but because of their size, will inevitably be held back.
Yeah. I mean, I like it as well because it's kind of like bite size. It's an hour. It's not going to take too much. The only thing I have, I mean, everybody, Matt, said that they wish the cruiserweights were just exclusive to, why don't they have them on SmackDown? Why do they keep having them on Raw? And all this kind of thing because of the tapings after. But you know what? I probably prefer the only thing that I get distracted with during that show, Matt, is the fact that it is the SmackDown crowd, like the taping crowd in the background, and they're kind of. I mean, I don't know that they're really that into it. I think they would probably do better at like an NXT kind of setup. And I don't, I think, again, maybe doing it down at Full Sail wouldn't be the worst idea because those fans are going to be so much more passionate for the guys that they're watching. Whereas, if it's on a taping, on a SmackDown taping, again, you've got to have a lot of eyes, you've got to get a lot of people up for this product. But when you know that you're going to get the SmackDown roster on, it's very difficult to do that, I think, to get fans into it, knowing what's coming after and all the rest of it. So I do think that maybe that's been one of the issues I've had with it. Like the atmosphere's kind of somewhat dead sometimes during some of the stuff that they're doing. And it doesn't look tremendously great. It looks like a sort of superstars type sort of deal because of how it's been shuffled around. For you, Matt, is there any other sort of suggestions that you'd place and do that with, or do you think that's it? It's not as bad as what people are saying.
I think for now it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's giving the cruiserweights that platform to actually come off of, and I know like putting it before SmackDown is very confusing because considering they're a Raw roster, it would make much more sense to put them on before Raw, or like you said NXT because you get a bit more excitement from that crowd perhaps. But I think for now I'm not too concerned about the 205 setup. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing for me, and it gives them a little bit more exposure to a bigger audience, because the arenas that you can fill up on SmackDown is quite a lot bigger than you can get on NXT. So